Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, necromancer, and practitioner of the dark arts. Today, I want to kind of talk to you about afflictions, things like pain, and how it is a root cause of most of the drama and chaotic afflictions that happen in your life. More so, why these events lead many to the left-hand path, specifically that of dark sorcery, Satanism, dark paganism, and other traditions of sorcery. Over the last 3 days, there's been a lot of chaos and a lot of turmoil, especially where I work. And when you work in the medical field, in my case, the kitchen aspect, a lot of the RAs and above really don't understand what you do, okay, as a dietary aid or a chef. So they tend to act out, so to speak, vocally towards you in a manner that is, how should I say this? Almost like they're superior to you. Some are racist, others are sexist, and then there's those that just are entitled. You know what I'm saying? We all have these wherever we work, but more so, we have events that take place that scar your body. For an example, when I was young, I spent a long time traveling, spent thousands of dollars, was a fighter, cocky, arrogant, you know, really didn't give a damn about reputations. I really didn't. And it's interesting because I've had a lot of injuries to my body because of the lifestyle that I lived when I was in my youth. And I didn't really think about it. I basically brushed everything off until nowadays because all those injuries that I've sustained have caught up to me. Knees, ankle, thumb, shoulders, whatever I've sprained, broken, or injured, you can always tell the difference of what storms are coming, you know, and you can even tell people, and they're like, no, that's not gonna, it just happened. You know what I'm saying? But more so, when we look at what happens to us in life from, say, birth forward, if you actually take the time to sit back and look at the events that unfolded in your life, from people dying, people that you were friends with, people that you knew. Did you ever stop to wonder if that played a huge part of why you became a necromancer? Or perhaps why you got into the medical field? Think about that for just a minute. You'd be surprised just how much of a connection that really is. More so when we get into this, a lot of times you come across things like racism, hate, fear, doubts, sadness, depression. What if I told you these are all root causes of exterior or interior pain? Did you ever wonder why you sleep so much? Or perhaps don't sleep at all? Maybe you're moody a lot. Perhaps you really can't deal with people and you tend to lash out at the smallest little inconveniences. What if I told you that was pain? Pain. Pain. What if I told you that that affliction, be it everybody you get close to dies, you become a necromancer to commune with the dead, or you get hated on because of how you dress, how you speak, how you communicate, or the lack thereof. And believe me, I've been to that one as well. And it's interesting to see, looking back over my life personally. I can't speak for you, but when I look back, I see abandonment. I see lies. I see hatred, judgment because of who you're related to, what you've had to deal with and endure growing up from your own relatives. A father that was never around, a mother that constantly lies about this or that, spends most of her time in and out of prison rather than to take responsibility and raise her children. You see, this is the type of pain that I'm talking about. Eventually, this pain turns into hatred after it goes through a number of different emotions, feelings. So if you continue following this, sadness, doubt, maybe commitment issues, maybe you became a fighter just to feel something. You know what I'm saying? All of this is due to an underlying amount of pain that you've endured, that was afflicted upon you from an external source or sources. So by the time you get into grade school and you start moving up, everything's kosher until you get into high school, junior high, high school area. And that's when those that you thought were friends turned out to be enemies. You got a couple of bullies, perhaps. You've had to endure until you finally just drop everything and drop kick him into the next fucking world. Who knows? You know? Or you got those cocky little cockroaches that are cheerleaders or jocks that think that they're better than you because they're the crowd pleasing types. It's all about image and respectability, making people happy, so to speak. But they themselves are not truly happy because they look at you and they see something that they don't have. Again, that root pain, that cause, that affliction. So this leads you into exploring. You tend to explore a lot of areas. Let's say your sexuality or your darker desires. Say You may turn to dark paganism. You may turn to gothcraft, become gothic. You may go through a rock and roll stage, you know, and some of you may even have gotten into sorcery of some kind, and you got that hunger, that thirst for it, and it's like, this clicks with me. This clicks with me. Not that JCI bullshit, no. Magic and sorcery, working with spirits, working with these old gods, working the magic, it clicks. You see, many of you may have didn't even realize that this is a path for you. Some of you may have joined because your family was a part of the occult, be it witchcraft, Satanism. You come from a hereditary family lineage. You know, this is the type of stuff that we're not going to pay attention to here. No, that's a whole nother ballgame because when you come from a hereditary family line, it's expected that you will follow in their tradition. Doesn't You were brought up with it, so it's all natural. But those that are forced into it or discover it by chance, I can tell you the first book that I picked up was Anton Szandor LaVey's The Satanic Bible before getting into Raymond Buckland, neo-paganism, got into Raven Digitalis' stuff. Gothcraft was his first book that I picked up. The Necromyicon, the Grand Grimoire Red Dragon, the Black Pellet. Started working with demons and summoning spirits, and it was you know something that was natural for me. It clicked. Perhaps you relate to this. Maybe you look at yourself in a mirror and it's like, where would I be without sorcery? Why did I get into sorcery? Why do I enjoy it so much? Well, look at it this way. All those experiences that you've gone through has made you the individual that you are today. You see, when you look back and you look at all those afflictions, how did you handle them? Did you come to terms with them? Maybe you had a lot of walls before you learned to go around it or even go through it, above it, maybe even beneath it, but you never truly dealt with it. And then somewhere along the line, down the road, you realize that baggage means nothing. It's just a rock that I've had to skip over, to kick over, to get to where I'm at today. Did you ever look to see the amount of sacrificing that you've done in your career or even through your studies? Did you ever take that time to go at it from a psychological view or even an emotional roller coaster? Think about that for just a moment, and I'll get to why I said it that way. A lot of times when you get on social media, you see somebody always expressing emotion of some form of discontent, be it losing a child. Trust me, parent to parent, I get that. I do. Maybe it's relationship troubles because of what you practice, or maybe that person practices from a religious perspective. Maybe it's society's perspective against you. Perhaps you've been in and out of counseling for most of your life, maybe even forced to take medications growing up. Who knows? The point is, pain is the root cause of the way you act. Have you ever looked at your kid, your child, and you know that they're hungry but they don't want to eat, and they start getting upset. They start getting angry, maybe getting into that whole temper tantrum phase. And you see where this escalates from there, and you have to put them in timeout to get them to settle down. Maybe even take something away, like, say, their TV privileges, or, pick up their dinosaurs. See, my son, he loves dinosaurs. He likes the Justice League, and he likes the Avengers. He loves Batman. So you'd have to take away, like the dinosaurs and the Batmobile and stuff like that, just to get him to go, hey, but why are you doing that? You know, and it's like you have to compromise. Okay, now think about that for just a minute. You compromise with them, right? So if you eat your dinner, I'll give you these back. I'll give you your TV back. So they eat. Okay, they eat their dinner, and all of a sudden their mood changes. It's like being overly tired, and once they've napped, you got a whole nother kid. You got your son back or your daughter back. You know what I'm saying? The way, well behaved, manners, the whole kin caboodle. Well, picture it this way. Okay, picture it this way. The pain that you are feeling, the pain that you've gone through, you're dealing with this the same way. When I say emotional roller coaster, I want you to think about this. Somebody does something, like, let's say, for an example, you're in an argument. Instead of talking normally, talking things out, you allow your emotions to cloud your words, and you end up saying things that you don't mean. Okay, and you instantly regret it, but you can't take it back. You know what I'm saying? We've all been there. All right. So Mother Eldritch, welcome to the channel. Yeah, I got a 4-year old. 4-year old little boy. He's out at Mimi's right now. He'll be here tomorrow. His mother's at work till tomorrow morning, so I get the apartment to myself. It's a little me time. Don't mind the fur ball in the back. There's 4 of them around here. So, anyways, so the same thing could be said. The same situation, but you allow your emotions to run rampant, and you have no control over this. A wise woman once said, until you learn to stop tripping yourself up, you're going to do the same thing over and over again. So here it is, that emotional roller coaster effect. You keep making the same mistakes. You keep flying off the hinges with every little detail, be it Biden egging on Putin or Putin, you know, egging on Biden, or anything to do with Hollywood produced films like soap operas. The TV goes out, somebody flies off the hinges. You know, this is what I'm talking about, that behavioral sense. Now, why do they do that? Is it because their father or their mother did that? Modern medicine would refer to this as a mental disorder, PTSD perhaps, maybe bipolarism, maybe schizophrenic. Their job is just to pass out medication because it makes you more compliant to the whims of society. But that pain, when you actually look at that pain and you take the time to root out that pain, you know, we all have skeletons in our closets. I've done a lot of things over 25 years, some of which I wish I could take back. Things you can't do anymore because that person's dead. But guess what? It's there. You have to live with it. You have to learn to live with it. Okay? So by the time my better half and I got together, I had told her everything about my past. It's what you do when you're in that relationship. I know about her past, but here's the kicker. You still poke that sleeping bear. There's still that thing that would set you off. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just tossing a dish down next to the bed, or you end up with ants and you're wondering why is there ants, and it's like, oh, look at all the freaking trash on one side of the bed. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's because you've lived on the streets in a couple of different cities. Hell, I've lived on the streets in a couple of cities and I've learned a lot. But the thing is that when we look at that root pain, why was it there? Why is it causing such a, how should I say this, that emotional roller coaster effect? See, my better half's mother, she hated the fact that her Baptist daughter was dating a dark arts practitioner. First, she attacks her daughter, then she attacks her son, and then she attacks me. For a year, it was all about me. I knew it would. She used her position, she used her job as a board member on numerous boards, as a medical provider. Even her own husband sat on the, well, let's just call it the way it is. He worked in the federal building. He worked underneath the governor. And you know what happened? It affected them way more than it affected me or her or our son. The most that it did was it caused my son to hate doctors. It gave her unnecessary stress to the point where she just became depressed. But that rock, me, they learned to lean on me. As that old saying from the Man of Steel, my strength is your strength. You'll take it and succeed. Of course, I'm paraphrasing there, but it's there. You see, She ended up coming at me in an emotional sense. But then she realized one thing. It didn't bother me. My past was what made me who I am today. But here's the funny thing. The way she looked at it was me doing magic was like you breathing. You ceasing to breathe, it eliminates you of who you are. That root pain, that momentary event in your life or a series of events, the minuscule compared to what you're truly capable of doing when you learn to deal with them. Every day you are afflicted in some way through your day's events, but it's how you deal with them. You can sit there at that time because at that time it would not be a polite or beneficial means to deal with it. You may not have that chance to deal with it because of what's going on around you. You could be surrounded by people in a mall, or you could be at work. Okay. You could be, dare I say it, at a church gathering. Okay. It's not prudent to do things there, like say holler, argue, um, want to scream, you know, for bloody murder, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? It's that's not the time to do it. It's when you take that step back and you reflect upon why you were getting emotional. What was that event that caused you to become that depressed? I remember a couple years back, I had just started at Dunkin', and it had been about a year, just about a year, and there was this worker there that she was always at my throat, okay? And one day we just got into it, and we had the team lead had to jump in, you know? It was that type of argument, and I literally lost it to the point where I literally punched the creamer, okay? The creamer door. Literally, I hit that thing hard, okay? And it was enough that it scared everybody. They had never seen anybody become that dark that fast. About 4 hours later, same shift, the woman that I had gotten into that argument with, that literally came at me, she said, "I don't know why we got so angry over that something that was so small, so small." Turns out there was a part of my character, my characteristic tendencies, things that I would do, like say the way I would, suddenly just take things off the wall and, start rearranging stuff and making a customer wait or for just a moment or so I can finish what I was doing. Or it's something I would say. It would be that tone in my voice. Well, guess what? That reminded her of her former husband. Okay, which is what pissed her off, and because of that turmoil and that pain that she had experienced, those events. Because from what I understand, the guy was a brutal little bastard. Okay, verbally abusive. I suspect physical as well, just by the way she reacted to me sometimes. And so She had never dealt with those events. She had never gone to counseling. She just buried it deep down. And it wasn't until I got a book by the name of The Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft by Christopher Penziak that I actually understood what was actually going on from a psychological perspective. And when I say you take the day's events and you shove them to the back of your head, to the back of your mind, so you can continue on what you're doing, guess what? You're not dealing with it. You're just removing it from the situation. Okay? Removing it from play on a temporary basis. So if you keep adding and adding and adding onto that, eventually you're going to have Mount Everest. That quick, solitary burst of rage, an emotional reply to some form of event. I've seen it with my own son. When you sit there and tell him no, he may be okay with it one day. The next day, he could be tired, he could be hungry, and you say no. All of a sudden, he stomps that foot, his hands are on those hips, and trust me, it's kind of hard to discipline a child when you're just laughing your ass off because of what he's doing, you know? Yeah, it's really hard to keep a straight face. If you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, mm, people are the same way. It doesn't matter if you're an adult, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, okay? These events are traumatizing. You wanna be a better practitioner? You wanna get better at magic? One of the greatest things that you can do is deal with those past traumas. It will help you become more balanced. It will help you become more in tuned, and it will center you a lot better. And it's funny because, like I said, my better half, I come home, she'll come right over to me. She'll say, "Hey, come snuggle with me," because she's in bed and we have like 15 minutes before she has to go to work. Because I get out at 2, she has to be to work at 2:30. You know, so she's wanting to cuddle. Other times it's she'll meet me. She'll be up and she'll go, "I missed you." Okay, these are things that build on trust. It is She feels comfortable with me. She is, well, satisfied in a lot of different areas. She knows that she's protected, she's provided for, she has a safe place to be, to raise a family. Okay. This is what you're looking for as a practitioner, not just a male. Okay. Not just a warlock. Okay. My better half, like I said, is a Baptist, and she comes to me wanting me to do magical services for a number of different things, either more money, some money to come into her lap, or, a door to come open so she can get a better job or a better position. Sometimes it's even weather related. Yeah, I'm not going to go there. She's seen what happens when I get angry. But it's funny because of the fact that it's not just her. My son does the same thing. He wants to be around me all the time. In fact, he's even picked up some of my traits. I've learned to watch what I say, for an example. He tends to repeat them. He's at that stage. So even the cats will come over and they want to be where I am. And when you gain their trust and you gain their loyalty, you'll notice things like, for an example, every time you go into a room, you got 3 cats in a triangle. Still baffles the hell out of my better half But yeah, you see the point though. You live a happier life because you've dealt with those pain. You've dealt with those issues. And the funny thing is, I've guided her to do the same thing. You see, a warlock is a counselor, a priest, somebody who performs rituals such as hand fasting, funerary, counseling. He's a shaman, medicine man. He doesn't just do curses, hexes, or jinxes, baneful or wrathful magics. Being a warlock, there's a lot of responsibilities. It's like being a better half, which is why I brought up my own family life in this video. I don't normally talk about my family life in this manner because of the fact that I don't believe it should be out there like that. But in this case, this topic of pain being that root underlying topic that fits into so many different things. I mean, you think about it for just a minute. Pain leads to fear. Fear leads to racism, slavery, hatred, depression, war. And do I have to remind you of this of Troy, the city that fell? Think about that. What about Rome? You know how much backstabbing was there? How much politics was involved? How much betrayal was there? All because of pain and suffering, and it fuels that fire. It keeps it going. You look at the world today, everybody talks about it. How many of you actually apply it to your life? How many of you actually take the time to step back from society? Get away from the TV, get away from, you know, the herd conformity. Literally take that step back. Take a good, strong look at yourself and what you need to do, and then apply it to your life after making that plan, that game plan. It's taken me a long time to get to where I'm at. I've been rejected a lot in my life, been hated a lot. I got to the point it just did not matter to me. It did not faze me one bit. Somebody died, life goes on. Ask somebody out, no? All right, on to the next. See, women are complete opposite than that. They get rejected. It's like now I'm wondering why. Their curiosity gets in. They get angry. They get kind of paranoid in a sense because it's more of, wait, I've never been rejected before. What's going on here? You know what I'm saying? I usually get what I want. Trust me, my better half hates that when I say no to her. But it's funny. So things like this will happen, you know? You just gotta find that underlying pain, figure out why it happened, deal with it. It's like using the term I instead of we. Me, we. There's a difference from me or I to we. See, you don't realize that until you get into a relationship, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, my better half. Now I understand the pet names too. So there's a lot that you don't understand when you're young. There's an old expression: the very young don't always do what they're told. Well, it's true. It's not until you get older that you truly understand things that matter and things that don't matter, things you don't need in your life. With the life that I've lived, I can tell you I don't need the drama. I got enough dealing with the in-laws. You know what I'm saying? I like my solitude. I like the practices and the magics. I help out my apprentices. And I answer questions from the community. You know, this is what I'm about. This is what I became. And when you realize out of the blue that people see you as an elder, that's an honor. That's a privilege. I was working for Tractor Supply one day, and I was working with a coworker. She's a pagan, and we always talked about history. We always talked about the occult and the magics. And one day she looked at me. She says, "I always saw you as an elder. An elder. Now you look at a warlock. You look at the male figure in a relationship, protector, the provider, counselor, the partner. You can't afford to have that imbalance, especially nowadays with the legal system the way they are, with the way it is. And if you look at the legal system, that's a whole nother topic because the legal system is designed for protection. However, people use it as a weapon. 9 times out of 10, the judge will side with the woman. However, there are groups that will side with men and fight for male rights. You take the TST. I'm not a big fan of the TST, the Satanic Temple, but I can't deny the fact that they've done a lot of good for the satanic world, the satanic community. Same exact thing. They're dealing with all this abortion rights, which is another topic. If one wants to get rid of a kid that's not born and the other one wants to keep it, a person that doesn't have a say in what that happens to the child. You know what I'm saying? So now you got somebody fighting for reproductive rights. You have the church that's always, well, let's just say their stance is the same as it always has been. You go into the community rules. You got the feminists, again, segregation. And it's all pain. It's nothing more than pain. Everything that you see in the world has pain that drives it. Pain drives somebody to become powerful. They become a tyrant. Saddam Hussein, for an example. You look at the bastard he was. You know, you look at Putin. He's a warrior. Do you ever stop to wonder why he's that warrior? Or perhaps, let's say, Judge Judy. We all saw that show back in the 90s, early 2000s. Did you ever wonder why she was such a little wench on the stand? It wasn't just because the cameras were rolling. Look into her background. You'll see what I mean. But the thing is that pain drives everybody. Pain and affliction of such betrayal, hatred, segregation, of racism, you name it, it is there in the world today. It's always been there. People can lie to your face and lie to everybody else, saying, "Oh, This stuff don't exist anymore. America is different than other countries. Bullshit. It's still there. Religious intolerance is still there, even though those religions are protected by the Constitution and the legal system. You have free will to become anything you want to become. And yet, the thing that sucks about that betrayal, they'll deny you that right again and again and again. There are so many topics that can be discussed here. So I'm not going to get into any more of those topics. The point here is that when you get into any event that changed your world and it's led you either into a religious or spiritual foundation, even a magical one, I want you to take a look at a good solid look. I want you to take that step back. Look at that event as a third party witness. You've been there, everybody else has been there, but yet you're taking that step back to take a close look at that and to detail it in full. What part of that conversation or that event afflicted you in such a manner that it damaged you? I'm not talking physical damage, I'm talking mental, emotional, or even physical damage. Look at somebody who's been burned, somebody who's getting beat up, all because they dress different or they look different. This is pain. Even words are sharper than a two-edged sword. It pierces that veil to the subconscious and it runs deep. But it's made you who you are. I'm not saying forget that it happened. I'm saying just deal with it. Let it go. Otherwise, it will hinder you. It will hinder your magics. It will hinder your spiritual connection. And it will afflict you in many, many other ways. So if you want to grow and you want to be a better magician, a better sorcerer or sorceress, deal with those afflictions, deal with that pain, seek it out. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is a great example. The soul's journey. Things that you go through from the time you're born to the time you leave this world. Prime example. All right? Indeed, Mother. It's actually a very good perception of that. Mother Eldritch here says, this reminds me of this video where Bob Proctor was talking about negativity and how our brains give off vibrations and we can get stuck in a negative vibration. Very, very true. And that is a perfect example. That is a very perfect example. Well, it's not just about taking that cycle and breaking it and creating another one. It's about dealing with it. It's about coming to terms with the fact that it did happen. It's there. Because once you become aware of it, you can name it. Look at all these medical professionals. How many diseases are they coming out with? You can't even turn on the TV without seeing a new diagnosis due to some form of medication or some kind of medication to go with some disease that they probably just made up anyways. It's there. I mean, you just got to deal with it. It's not about creating a new one, positive outlook. It's more of you take that negativity and you turn it into something positive. Yeah, that event happened, but guess what? You sought justice, and that justice prevailed. Or, say, for an example, you took that experience and you were able to help somebody else. That's how you take a positive, a negative vibration, and you turn it into something new, something more positive. You get to help somebody else. And yes, shadow work does work, but shadow work actually fits into a wide range, so you have to be very specific in that. Men like gods, welcome to the channel. It's been a while, my friend. Good to see you back. Well, thank you, men like gods. So one of the things that I've been doing is I've been getting ready to go back into college, and I'm going for thanatology. Now, a lot of people don't know what thanatology is, or even what necrology is, and it is associated with necromancy, but it's more of understanding the death and dying. And one of the things I can tell you is that trauma, pain, and suffering is a part of that journey, and it affects more than just you. If you, for an example, will look at it in a form of, okay, I've got cancer. I'm going to die. I've come to terms with that fact. I've got 6 months to live. Okay, this is what I'm being told. Okay, then guess what? And trust me, I've lost too many friends to cancer. It sucks because everybody else is left to deal with that. But it's an example there. A lot of times when people have an affliction that interrupts their perception of life, they don't think about what's this doing to my family? What's it doing to my friends? Nobody stops to think about that. But a thanatologist, a counselor, their job is to not only deal with the person who's dying and help them come to terms with it, but they're there for the family and the communities and how they are dealing with this individual's illness and the news of what's taking place. One of the biggest things in Hollywood was this sex scandal dealing surrounding what was her name, Allison Mack, for an example, and now you've got this one with some movie producer. I can't think of his name offhand, but he's there. And you got all these actors and actresses coming together and dealing with that publicly. It's like, why don't you just do it in the shadows? But yeah, Abaddon teaches a lot of things about destruction. One of the biggest things is coming to terms with the fact that you're able to take your own life into your own hands. What I mean by that is the fact that as a destroyer, He aids you in seeking out though that which hinders you, and you're able to learn how to destroy it, to deal with it, basically neutralizing it completely to the point where it has zero effect on you. That's the one thing I like about Abaddon. And by the way, he's also one of my patrons. Well, I wouldn't say patron, to say the least. He's more of my creator. So, but yeah, um, seek out the pain in your life, learn from it, and then deal with it. And trust me, you'll see a big difference in your life, not just in your magical career. I want to thank Mother Eldridge for jumping on here with me, and I want to thank Men Like Gods. Thank you for coming on here. And damn, 3,000? That's fucked up. And at least here it's what is it? Burial is like 4,000, but the cremation is only two, if I remember correctly. And that's what a burial urn is for, because you get to place it on a shelf somewhere. So but that's ridiculous, especially if it's your own family member. You know, especially when they have the technology that they can cleanse the vessels, the bones and everything, so it's non-harmful to the public. Although, as practitioners, we actually know how to do that, but still, either way. But that is definitely fucked up. That's all I gotta say. So, like I said, I'm gonna call it a night. It's been a very long day. I was up at 4, at work by 5, and been going all day. So, well, before I go, Midnight Gods, you want to know something that's fucked up? I'll tell you what's fucked up. You got all these laws against burial and graves and corpse defilements and stuff like that. But yet, the one thing that is legal in the United States, and it took a 17-year-old kid to point this out to me a few years back. Cannibalism is legal in the United States. Yeah. Cannibalism is legal, but yet you can't dig up a corpse or hold a corpse's hand without being charged with defiling a corpse. Hilarious, isn't it? Talk about a duality within the justice system and legal system in general. I'm just saying, it's literally fucked up, but I couldn't believe that when he told me that. And I actually looked it up myself. I thought he was kidding. Nope, was not joking. So, but all right, I'm out. Have a good night. Till next time.